AITA for not giving up my window seat on a plane to a kid just because she threw a tantrum. This made me wonder if I had been too rigid. Story 1. I was on a domestic flight, and I had specifically booked a window seat because I love looking out at the view. It's one of the few things I actually enjoy about flying. After I settled into my seat, a family boarded. A dad, a mom, and their little girl, who looked about 6 years old. The dad had an aisle seat, the mom was in the middle, and the kid was supposed to sit in the other aisle seat. Everything seemed fine until the girl realized she wasn't sitting by the window. She immediately started complaining, "I want the window, I want the window." Her parents tried to calm her down, but she quickly escalated into a full-blown tantrum, crying and yelling about how she wanted my seat. At this point, the dad leaned over and asked, "Would you mind switching seats with her? She's just a kid." I politely explained that I had booked the window seat in advance because I really wanted to enjoy the view. The dad insisted, saying it would be nice of me, and that it wouldn't hurt to switch. I reiterated that I understood his frustration but didn't think his daughter's tantrum was a valid reason for me to give up a seat I specifically reserved. He sighed and tried to push further, but I stood my ground. The girl cried for about 10 more minutes before her mom managed to calm her down with a tablet. However, the tension lingered. Throughout the flight, I could feel the parents throwing me judgmental looks, and when we landed, I overheard the mom muttering something like, "Some people just have no heart." This made me wonder if I had been too rigid. I know kids can be a handful, but I also feel like giving in would have taught her that throwing a tantrum gets her what she wants. Still, I couldn't shake off the guilt. So, AITA? Edit. Thank you all for the comments, they helped me a lot to realize that I really wasn't the TH, and for those who said it's fake, I can't change your opinion. But for those who have doubts, the seating arrangement was 3x3. Story 2, I tripped a kid on purpose and would do it again. I and my partner went out to eat at the finest dining place in all the land, Applebee's. We go to Applebee's often for their half-priced appetizers after 9 p.m. This particular day, I got done with work early and decided to go to Applebee's because I didn't feel like cooking. I took my partner if that is important. A big snowstorm hit that day and roads were slick, so I imagine some workers called in. Once we got there, a group of 15 to 20 people were having a good time in one of those 4 booths combined into one with 4 tables, one long booth, and chairs along the other side. They took up the entire spot, including 3 kids. Our server seats us and we order. As soon as our server leaves, the server had to politely ask the children to get out of their way 3 or 4 times. It was obvious this wasn't the first time. The kids got in the way of the server at least 5 times and wouldn't move until being asked to for a while. The kids also kept coming up to tables and talking to other people, including me and my partner. It was very annoying and ruined the experience. The boy ran with his toy gun, still in the packaging, all throughout the restaurant. After coming to my table 3 times to shoot me, I was very irritated. We got served the food and the boy runs over and looks at our food for a little bit. I tried to pretend he wasn't there until he reached in and grabbed one of the quesadillas I ordered. He ran away laughing and eating. My partner convinced me to drop it because he is just a kid. The kids tried to steal more food a second time, but I yelled at him to get away. Parents have done nothing to control their kids at this point. After about 30 to 45 minutes of being at this place, I have been pretend shot 3 times and had food stolen from me. I see the kid running with his toy again, but this time I stick my leg out and trip the kid and he lands face first into the toy. The boy cries for a decent amount of time before he runs to his mother, who finally says something to the kid. I don't know what was said as they speak Spanish and I don't know enough to understand what they said. After this, the big party left in about 5 minutes. I felt a little bad about tripping the kid until I heard our server crying in the back. They tipped her $2 and some cents, sounded like 10 cents, but don't know for certain. This server did an amazing job for this family and that tipped her as if she spit in their food. I felt much less bad about tripping the kid and hope that family never comes back to that establishment. We loved the server and their service. So after she was done with her much needed cry session, we told her how great she was and tipped her $20 for a $30 meal. Edit. Sorry for the long post. Edit 2. Answering frequently asked questions. Did you talk to a manager? Number honestly never thought of it, so I agree that is on me. Did you talk to the parents? The answer is kinda. The post was long as is, so I tried to shorten it and left out that I spoke to the family. Like I stated earlier, I don't speak Spanish. They looked at me confused and never gave me an answer that made sense. One even tried handing me a plate thinking I was a busser. I don't work there and I was not wearing anything close to work clothes. Is this post fake? No, but if you want to believe so you can. Did I get a new quesadilla? Number it was something my partner told me to just let go and that we didn't need to go back to the parents about. Are you proud of yourself? Maybe not proud, but I don't feel remorse about it. We, in my opinion, tried our best in the situation and handled it ourselves. If you have any more questions, please ask in the comments. Story 3. My boyfriend just single-handedly took my sexual insecurities and trauma away. I've had some pretty bad history with men throughout my life, especially from childhood, which caused me to believe that I was sexually dysfunctional and dirty for the longest time. I felt disgusted with myself, which made me pretty much lose all interest in having sexual relations in anyone and lack any form of sexual interest in anyone. I did meet my ex-boyfriend and I thought that he helped me heal my sexual trauma until I realized that having sex shouldn't have to hurt so much every single time. I started to feel that I was sexually dysfunctional because I couldn't get so wet and I could never come or orgasm. It didn't help at all that I eventually felt like a sex toy, given that every chance I get of visiting him, he always asked to do it with me even when I said no, even when it was clear that I was uncomfortable, but I did it anyway because I loved him at the time and wanted to make him happy. He would always make fun of me too for my facial expressions and my moans, and pretty much made me feel incredibly insecure about my body. I had to break it off because he eventually raped me and I just completely lost all feeling. Keep in mind, he knew my sexual traumas. And now I'm with the best partner ever. He is an absolute green forest. He always asks me if I genuinely want to have sex with him, and whenever we do it, he asks me if I'm alright and if I'm hurt anywhere, and at some point I cried because that was the first time I genuinely felt so well taken care of and heard, especially that my parents just kept telling me that all men are just horny like that and will eventually assault you because it's part of their nature. But being with him just proved otherwise. And sex never hurts with him. I found out that I can actually get super wet, come like a waterfall and orgasm, and I'm not sexually dysfunctional or broken in any way. After doing it, he'd always clean me up, fix my hair, my sheets. He makes me feel beautiful and he often compliments how hot I am and how he loves my facial expressions and moans, and I can feel his love with every touch. I could really feel his passionate and gentle soul. He himself went through sexual trauma as well throughout childhood, never watched porn, never touched himself until I came into his life. He always thought that having sex and sexual relations is disgusting too, and felt that he was dysfunctional for the longest time. Knowing that I was able to make him feel comfortable and eventually like doing these acts with me is honestly the greatest feeling ever. He deserves so much love and care, and it is an absolutely honor to be able to love him the way I do. Meeting him has genuinely changed my perception of love and sex. For the longest time I was disgusted with it, and now I see it as one of the rawest, most human ways to express love for each other. In my boyfriend's words, it is as much a ritual of love as it is a beautiful carnal animalistic sexual act, and that's what makes it the best for me. Man, I'm crying as I'm writing this because I love him so much and I really cannot wait to spend the rest of my lifetime with him. Thank you for reading till the end. DPS. English is my third language, please be kind to me, haha. Story 4. AITA for snapping at my sister after my parents asked me to skip a Christmas gift this year so she could get special braces. I, 16-year-old, have a younger sister, 14-year-old. Our parents always treated us differently because I'm a boy and she's a girl. They really don't want her to ever be disappointed, and they'd always ask me to skip stuff or give up something so she could do something else or have something else. Examples of that. If we both got invited to birthday parties on different days, they'd ask me to skip it so she could go to the other, instead of just dropping us off at the different parties. If it was my turn to pick where we ate for dinner and I wanted my favorite, and she complained, they'd ask me to let her pick, even though I didn't like her favorite either. But she was younger and a girl, so they thought it was okay. If we went on vacation or to the amusement park close to our town, they'd ask if I minded going last so she could go on rides or do what she wanted to do, and then they'd just never get around to mine. Then if I was given candy or something and she liked it, I'd be asked to give it to her. I did say no sometimes, but I was either told I was an older sibling and should, or they ignored my no and did what they wanted to anyway. Because of this, my sister expected this and she became so spoiled. It only got worse when I started babysitting 2 years ago and making money. I was asked to buy her something she wanted or to give her some money. And of course saying no was a waste of time again. My sister needs braces now. She doesn't want the regular ones. I was told she's not getting Invisalign either, but there's some special braces she won't mind wearing, but they cost a lot. She complained when our parents said they didn't have the money, and she complained so hard that she even said they shouldn't give me anything for Christmas this year to afford it. So of course my parents asked me if I was okay with not getting a gift this year so she could have those braces. I started to say no and they started talking over me, so I said, you basically fuck you and do what you want because I don't count. My sister was trying to say something about it and I pointed right at her face and told her to stop fucking talking to me. I called her a spoiled and selfish brat and I said I don't want her to be my sister. I said I'm older, but it doesn't mean she should always come first. She argued back at first and I told her to fucking stay away from me and she can fuck off with our parents. I was mad. My parents tried to yell at me that same night but I was so mad they stopped. But the next day they told me snapping at my sister was wrong and I shouldn't say yes if I mean no. So I said no and they said saying no doesn't work. I told them to fuck off. They took my stuff for over a week for talking to them like that and they lectured me again for taking it out on my sister. AITA? Story 5? I closed my door on my neighbor's face because she really needed peanut brittle. Hello, this is an odd situation for me, where I just really don't know if I was being too much of a but I'm just tired, and let me tell you why. I'm a 20-year-old guy, and I still live with my dad at his house. My mom was in a lengthy battle with breast cancer, and she passed during August. It wrecked me on so many levels, that I was not prepared for. On top of losing my hero, I felt like I should stay with my dad to be here with him, and support him. One of those things is keeping up with traditions, and recipes passed down from my mom. And it's been really hard for holidays to even capture a fraction of the spirit of when my mom would do holidays, as she was the backbone of setting stuff up, preparing food, and decorating. But this is where we run into a problem. My mom, when she was alive, she would make peanut brittle, some fudge, and double chocolate crinkled cookies, and she would make like up to 30 batches of them, to put in containers and hand them out to family, to friends, to me and my siblings, co-workers, and of course the neighbors. This is my first real year of making all these sweets by myself, and I'm really not committed to doing all of this baking, when I'm in college, as well as balancing a job, and a side hustle I have to make more money. I'm just too damn sad. With the grieving, and too tired from school and work to do loads of batches. In fact, that the only reason I'm making these sweets, is because they're yummy, I cannot lie, and I know my dad would appreciate them. I just started to attempt to make them. I only have made 2 small test batches, and they were good, not as good as my mom's, but this is where my neighbor knocks on my door. I answer, expecting like a Christmas card, and she said, "Hi, I was wondering if you had got any of the peanut brittle done." So I explain like, yeah, I'm trying to perfect the recipe, but I don't know if I can send them out this year, and she asked, oh, mom's name, is really slacking behind this year. And at this point I'm thinking to myself, does she not know my mom passed away? And then I'm thinking we told her the news of it spreading and her being too tired to do any like neighborhood walking around the block with her friends. So I'm like dumbfounded that she can't put 2 and 2 together, that she isn't able to make peanut brittle. So I tell her she passed away in August, and she just looks at me like with a surprised expression. She said with like almost a confused tone, "So you're not making peanut brittle at all, how about tomorrow?" I at that point close the door and I'm kind of just hand in a fist, because I'm about to break down in an ugly cry, and other bad emotions. My dad finally comes out of his room, and asks who it was. Was it a package? And I tell him neighbor wanting peanut brittle. And he looked confused, and he told me, "You haven't even figured out the right temperature yet," in like a joking way, but right as he says that, my neighbor texts him, saying that I was being a snark to her, so I tell him the full story. He gets teary-eyed because we are still grieving my mom. And he was like more lighter than usual peanut brittle for us. So AITA? I feel like I could have been worse, by either yelling or just flat out crying, but me closing the door in a fast manner was all I can really think to do. I didn't mean to upset her. I'm thinking all this stuff maybe she didn't know and is processing it, but she knew my mom was barely able to walk 100 to 200 feet and always tired. So I'm just like, yeah, don't know. Story 6. AITA for refusing to give my half-sister any of our grandmother's jewelry after they excluded me for years. For context, I, 24-year-old, am the product of an affair. My father was married when I was born, and his marriage fell apart because of it. My dad eventually divorced his now ex-wife, and his 3 kids, my half-siblings 32, 30, 28, have always resented me for it. I understand, what happened between our parents was messy and destroyed their happy family, but I was just a baby, and they've punished me for it my whole life. Growing up, they excluded me from everything. They didn't want me around, made cruel comments when I was, and acted like I didn't exist unless they were making me feel unwelcome. The worst part was when my mom passed away when I was 19. While I was mourning my mother's death, they openly celebrated. I found out they made jokes about how the trash took itself out, and threw a party less than a month after the funeral to celebrate it. That broke me, and I've been no contact with them for years over it. Our shared grandmother wasn't much better. She wasn't outright cruel to me, but she clearly favored my half-siblings. They spent vacations and summers with her, while she barely acknowledged me. She also made it known on more than one occasion that she wanted her jewelry to go to my oldest half-sister, 32-year-old, when she passed away as the oldest female grandchild in the family since she never had any daughters of her own. It was well established to everyone that knew her that this was her intention. However, she didn't leave a notarized will, so legally, her estate went to my dad as her only child. To my shock, my dad gave the entire jewelry collection to me. He said he regretted how I'd been treated by the family and wanted me to have something meaningful. It was the first time he had ever done something to truly acknowledge me, and I was floored. Now, my half-siblings are furious, especially my oldest half-sister. She's demanding I give her some of the jewelry, claiming that since she was closer to our grandmother and she had always intended for her sister to have it, it's unfair that I kept it all. She even said I wasn't really part of the family, and has been calling me selfish and accusing me of stealing what was rightfully hers. I refused. I told her that after years of being treated like garbage, I'm not giving up the one thing my dad has ever done to acknowledge me. She accused me of being bitter and petty, saying I'm using this to punish them for things that happened years ago. I'll admit, part of me feels like I'm finally getting some compensation for their horrible treatment of me. But the other part of me wonders if I'm being petty or cruel by keeping it all when the others were so much closer to her. So AITA? Edited to add due to some people making assumptions about my mother. She did not know my father was married originally. They married after my father's divorce because at the time my mother could not support the two of us by herself, and being an unmarried pregnant woman was a major cultural taboo for her. My father spent a majority of his time home, when he actually bothered to come at all, trying to make it up to his children, my half-siblings, when it was his time with custody. As far as I am aware, my mother never treated them poorly. They tended to ignore her, and she did the same when they were around our house. Story 7. AITA for abandoning my dad's pregnant widow. My dad died several weeks ago. It was just the two of us for years after my mom died when I, 16-year-old, was a baby. He got remarried 3 years ago. I never liked his wife, but I loved my dad, so I never told him I didn't like her, and I tolerated her being around. She was always really eager to get close to me, and I get it might have made her nervous and might be why she was so frustrating and unlikable to me. She'd say stuff like, "At least you never knew your mom," and she'd try to correct it, but she'd make it worse by saying it was a good thing I didn't remember my mom. She'd also say she took mom's place, and again she'd backtrack and say not what she meant, and sometimes she'd say she wanted to help fill in for her, but other times she'd say she meant she was the new wife and mom. The other thing was she really wanted me to give her a nickname that was kinda motherly, like Ma or Mama A. She drove me crazy with that. She and Dad decided to have a kid together and couldn't. So they used donor sperm at a bank. Meaning Dad was going to raise the kid, but they wouldn't have his DNA. They just discovered she was pregnant when Dad died. She tried to cling on to me, but I moved in with my uncle before the day was over. I didn't want to live with her. I packed up all the important stuff and I left with my uncle. She begged me to stay and told me to think about the baby, my sibling, etc. I didn't see her after the funeral. She's tried to say we're family and stuff, but I told her we're not. She asked about the baby and I told her the baby isn't biologically my dad's and he's dead now and won't get to raise the kid, so I don't want to know the baby either. She told me abandoning her like that was shitty and abandoning my sibling even shittier. She said she still has to appear in court when the baby's born to get Dad on the birth certificate, and it would help if I spoke in favor of it since they need people to do it. I told her I won't and she needs to get over it. She screamed at me down the phone the other night because she realized I had blocked her number and she got a new one, and she mentioned abandoning them again. AITA? Story 8. AITA for blocking some family members over expensive Secret Santa lists. Again? Hey guys, wish I didn't have to come here again with such a ridiculous story about my family during Christmas time yet again. But here we are. For reference, I made a post last year about crazy SS requirements from my family. You guys gave me enough balls to put my foot down this time around, so let's recap. Last year about 20 SS participants, a mix of adults and kids. No budget, but everyone was required to submit a wish list. Deviations not allowed. Some people went wild with requests. Trips to Bali, designer bags, etc. My recipient, Eliza, had one of those lists, and I could only afford a $60 gift card. Didn't go over well. The fallout. Eliza wasn't happy, other luxury listers weren't happy, and the whole thing turned into chaos because some lists were followed, some weren't. This year Liam, the person who spearheaded these absurd rules in the first place, calls an emergency meeting in our group chat about how to handle SS this year. Liam's big idea? Stick with last year's format, but pair participants with matching budgets, luxury givers with luxury listers. The catch? If the random draw doesn't line up perfectly, we'd have to re-roll names or manually swap within the group. A few of us were upset. This seemed overly complicated. Addison suggested splitting into 2 groups. One for those who like Liam's approach and another for a more traditional format. Liam flips out. He got crazy rude, accusing Addison of trying to split up the family, and me for stirring the pot. According to him, everything ran smoothly before I got involved last year. Addison confirmed this is a lie. It was actually worse. I mentioned to Liam that this is extremely hurtful to be accused of, and that there may be a way to appease everyone if we have an open convo about what we're looking for. I explained that I prefer a more traditional SS for the ease as well as the budget restrictions being easy on the pocket. Plus I love giving thoughtfully. We each take turns explaining, with various reasons. Some not having as much money right now, some wanting to spend their bonus on a good gift for someone, stress-free gift giving. Then we got to Liam. Instead of explaining his reasoning, he just kept saying, "It makes more sense this way." Addison and I pressed him a bit, but he refused to elaborate. I finally said, "Look, if I didn't know any better, it sounds like you're just trying to hoard gifts." Liam exploded. He called me emotional, a Scrooge, and a Grinch. He even said I was trying to control everyone. I was honestly shocked. To make it worse, some family members, not coincidentally, the luxury listers, texted me afterward to say I was out of line for asking Liam to explain himself. At that point, I was done. I told everyone that if they can't see how unreasonable it is to alienate family members who can't afford these over-the-top lists and Beats headphones, I don't want to be involved in any capacity. AITA? Story 9. AITA for asking my friend to stop bringing her boyfriend to our girls' nights. I have been part of a close-knit group of girlfriends for years. We have regular girls' nights where we hang out, catch up, and just enjoy each other's company. It is something I always look forward to because it is just us, no partners, no distractions. One of my friends, Laura, started dating a new guy a few months ago. At first, she was great about keeping our girls' nights how they have always been. But recently, she has started bringing him along. It was not a big deal the first time since it was more of a casual hangout, but now it is becoming a regular thing. He is there every time, and it completely changes the vibe. We do not feel as comfortable venting about personal stuff or having certain conversations because he is sitting right there. I brought it up with Laura after our last get-together, and I tried to be as nice as possible. I told her we love her boyfriend and think he is great, but girls' nights are supposed to be just us. She got defensive and said it should not matter if he is there because she wants him to feel included in her life. Since then, things have been awkward. Some of the other girls in the group agree with me, but no one else wants to say anything because they are afraid of causing drama. Laura has been distant and hinted that I am being exclusionary. Now I am wondering if I should have just let it go. AITA for asking her to stop bringing him. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you enjoyed our videos, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay updated with our latest ones. Have a great day.